for viewers, would you mind telling me who you are and what you do?
Yes, my name is Stephanie Bendixsen, and or you may know me as Hex, and I'm a television presenter and game reviewer, formerly of Good Game.
Following the axing of Good Game, I suppose, you published a letter in response to a fan speaking about your experience in television, and you said, you know, as someone in their 30s in television, like that fear of what sort of longevity there is. Would you mind telling me a little bit more about how that idea sort of came to mind?
Sure, yeah. I mean, initially I wasn't going to say anything because I don't feel like I need to qualify my decisions for my own career.
Yeah,
but and you know, I'd been at Good Game for a really long time, and it's been it's probably been the most wonderful time of my life, to be honest. But you know, I think once people realized that I was leaving to go to another network, there was this idea of you know, abandoning something that essentially created my career for like a commercial paycheck or something like that.
Right.
And I suppose I just wanted to explain that there were a lot of reasons that went into making that decision, and people may not be aware of all those decisions, of all those reasons. And
Right.
and I felt like I've always just had success being really honest and upfront with people, so I decided to kind of just address everyone's concerns and explain all the different reasons why I wanted to make that decision. And one of them was that I had been in the same role for 7 years. I was going into my 8th year in Good Game. This would have been my 8th year, which is a long time. It's a long time for a show to run, and it's been incredible, and it was a long time to do any one job for any period of time. But yeah, the other reason was, I suppose, there's not a lot of jobs in, I suppose, the games industry or the entertainment industry, specifically around games, so you kind of have to take the opportunities as they come. And I suppose thinking about your career as a television presenter, it's not something that I've ever really wanted to think about or curate in any particular way, but sadly you do kind of have to think about it in that respect. And
You weren't so critical about that idea of a career prior to.
I don't know, like I never wanted to get into television presenting in the first place. Like it always seemed to me like something that you just read like a teleprompter. So then when I got this job at Good Game, which involved so much production and critique and reviewing and writing and being like as much a part of the production team as you were on screen, then I was like, wow, this is actually a really fulfilling, exciting job, and I get to talk about and be involved in things that I really love. So once I realized that there was that aspect of television presenting, I kind of never really thought about the on-camera stuff as much as I thought about the work that we were creating, you know, behind the scenes, and the content that went into the show. But unfortunately, the on-camera side of it is still important in the sense that people need to know who you are and want to hire you for what you can bring to their company and things like that. And if I didn't,
As an on-screen presenter.
as a personality, yeah. So if I didn't kind of foster and grow that further beyond the ABC, I was worried that I would lose the opportunity to do that as I got older.
Right. Even across, I mean, at the ABC you were doing Good Game, but you also had How to Be a Fan and My Great Big Adventure,
yeah. So I had a few little side projects and things like that, but I don't know, I looked at kind of future opportunities at the ABC, and it's hard to know. There was a lot of changes happening with funding, a lot of changes happening within management, and you can never really be sure what the longevity of your career will be. And so I had sort of two different paths to take. I could sort of stay on the road with the ABC and hope that I could build a substantial career there, or you know, I was suddenly presented with this other opportunity that could possibly take things in another direction. And you know, I just felt like that seemed like the better option and the smarter option, to be honest. Also, I mean, I can't speak too much to what we're doing right now, but you know, I left to develop something that I felt like the ABC no longer wanted to support in terms of digital content and things like that as well. And that is where I believe our audience is, and I think it's really important to get behind that. And so the values and the ideas that were expressed to me from this other network really seemed like everything that we should be doing in games media right now. So I just found that really exciting.
With those opportunities, I mean, from the ABC, I mean, you mentioned specifically digital opportunities with online content within gaming and entertainment. Like
we had a great digital show called Pocket, which was incredible, and I think, it created its own community. I met some Pocketeers here today,
I'm actually one of the moderators for it.
You are? Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So that's really incredible, and I think if that community had been given the chance to grow even further, it would have been really incredible. So yeah, it's that kind of thing that I'm really excited about now and being a part of going forward.
And it was the fact that the ABC was less interested in that as time went on?
Yeah, it seemed a bit contradictory because I think they see the value in it, and they want to approach younger audiences because the ABC's demographic, I think, is a little bit older. But then I think at the same time it's very difficult to kind of justify funding for certain things. And look, I've never run a television network, and it's difficult, I can imagine, to allocate funds when they're constantly dwindling as each year goes by. So I can't even imagine how hard it must be. But from my point of view, particularly in the games industry, that's the area that I would be looking to put a focus on.
Is there any sort of focus in terms of the content, like in terms of presenting or writing? I mean, like, you were doing that stuff at Good Game. Are you particularly interested or passionate about the producing side of things?
For sure, yeah. I mean, that's kind of what makes it fulfilling and worthwhile, really.
But that's what was lacking at the ABC?
No, not at all. That was absolutely a huge part of my job at the ABC, and we had an incredible production team as well. But I think it's more just in terms of the way we deliver that content to people that's important to focus on as well.
You mentioned that you weren't even so set on working in TV to begin with, and then you ended up in this position, and like the position itself really sold the idea of TV to you, I suppose, or content creation. What were some of the things that surprised you about working in that position, and all of a sudden...
I had no idea what was involved. Like, people who watch the show week to week, I think, have no idea what goes into creating half an hour of television. And with Spawn Point, that was a full hour that we were creating each week as well. So it's massive. So my first week at Good Game, I remember I played the game, and I'd written a review, and then I was like, great, so now what happens? And they're like, well, now you have to go through all of the footage and you have to log it for the editors. So you need to give them each specific clip that you want to represent each moment that you're talking about. And I was like, really? I was like, far out, that's a lot of work. And they were just like, well, that's what this job is. And then that's why each review ends up being so personal and so beautifully curated. So and then I kind of learned to really love that process, because then at the end of the week, when you would see the whole thing come together, you were like, far out, that was my moment that I did myself, and I put all this time and work into it. Yeah. So I learned so much from that job that has really given me the tools to kind of go forward now as well, which I'm very fortunate about. More
and more on YouTube and Twitch, we've seen personality-driven media, and to an extent, it's always existed. But you know, on huge sites like maybe IGN or GameSpot, for example, it's these big brands that really attract the audience they're serving. And within Good Game, it has always been personality-driven. But do you think that there was any, maybe not issue, but what potentially could be gained by having something a little bit more removed from a personality-driven sort of content?
I don't know. I think people will gravitate towards the content that they're interested in for different reasons.
So there's plenty of audiences for all sorts of different content.
Totally. And I think Twitch is a great example of that. Like, I follow people on Twitch, some of them who are terrible at games but are just hilarious and swear a lot, or just have very humorous reactions to the games that they play and interact with people in a really unique way. And then I follow other people who just seem really boring but are just really awesome at the game. So you're purely watching them for the skill, and that's amazing. And I think it's great that you have all these different avenues you can go down. There's some people that I watch on Twitch that don't even really play a lot of games. They just like paint or cook or something, and it's like, there's all these different avenues that you can follow now. Like, I like these older women reading poetry and stuff like that.
There's a lot of that happening.
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's a lot, but it's out there. If you want to find it, it's there. And I become fascinated. It's all of these little windows into people's lives, and people are just kind of giving something of themselves, and I love that. So, I mean, I wouldn't consider myself as being a person who is a massive personality. I wouldn't say that I've ever been particularly funny or entertaining, but I think I work well in a team format, so I have a lot to offer in terms of my passion and the way and my opinions on things, but I wouldn't say I'm like a personality per se.
Are there any opportunities, maybe outside of stuff that you've got in the works already, that you're wanting to pursue further, stuff that you're passionate about that maybe you haven't got your fingers in those pies at this point in time?
I mean, I've always wanted to write, so I'm writing a series of books now with Barjo. Well, we've got 3 out already, and we're currently writing the 4th, and it's a series of books for 8 to 12-year-olds, and it's set in a kind of a game world, which is really cool. It's called Pixel Raiders. So that's really exciting, but I'd love to write adult fiction as well one day. When I say adult, I don't mean like sexy adult, I mean like not for kids.
I want to write pure smut. Like, that's the goal here, isn't it?
I mean, like, I wouldn't be against it. I'm just saying, like, I've always loved fantasy fiction.
Stuff that's a bit more mature.
Yeah, so I'd love to write. But that would be a very time-consuming thing, and I see that being a later in life sort of thing. So it's really great that I can write at the moment, these wonderful books for younger readers and draw from my experiences in gaming as well. Beyond that, I'd really love to do voice work and motion capture. Like, that would be amazing. I interviewed Nolan North yesterday.
Yeah.
And that was so cool. Like, I'm fascinated by mocap videos, and I would love to be able to. I mean, it kind of goes back to my initial love of acting and that kind of thing. So I would love to. Because
you were doing a lot of theatre work.
Yeah. So I would love to be able to do that one day, and I suppose be involved in the game process from a different angle.
So not so much set on the game development, but more within the storytelling side.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that'd be really cool.
All right then. Steph, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure. Thanks so much.